Something I noticed, and something that really stared me in the face last night for the first time, is the lack of movement in our team. Is that when we've got the ball, a lot of the players are stagnant or just walking or slow. So that means that the player who's got the ball has got no options, and all that means is it's much easier for the opposition just to put two or three players around it and close us down, and we were losing the ball. In fact, that's how they scored.
So welcome back to Small Heath Alliance FC, and on Tuesday night, Birmingham City lost 1-0 at home to Middlesbrough, which again, I'm not too sure how many times I can start this video with a lacklustre and very underwhelming performance, and it really does raise some eyebrows and cause some issues for our remaining 9 games. But let's get straight into it. Dad, we were at the match, and what are your initial thoughts from that game on Tuesday night?
Well, firstly, Matt, we didn't look like a team that was fighting for our lives. You wouldn't imagine, looking at that display, that we were a team that were towards the bottom and actually fighting now relegation. There's no other way of addressing this. We are now really in a relegation fight, and people may say we've been in relegation fight for weeks. We didn't have a single shot on target in that game. Not one, not a single. How are you going to score goals if you don't get shots on target? You're giving their goalkeeper. In fact, I turned around to you, didn't I, towards the end? I think it was middle of the second half, and said, "Look, their goalkeeper's doing warm-ups."
Yeah.
It literally was. He was actually doing stretches while we were, and while they're on the attack. I'm thinking,
He looked bored, didn't he?
it must have been one of the easiest games he's ever had in his life. It was really, again, look, just like we said at the previous game when we did the Millwall post-match.
Yeah.
It was just so disappointing that the team didn't seem to have an urgency. It's like they know that the house is on fire, but they're not prepared to put it out. They're just blindly walking around the house, and eventually, they're going to get burnt, and that's what's going to happen to us if we don't wake up quickly.
Yeah.
We're going to get burnt in terms of we are going to get relegated if we play like that again.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it is for the first time ever when me and you were walking back to the car on Tuesday night, we actually looked at each other, didn't we, and said, we're actually in a little bit of trouble here. But for the first, because we were glass half full, we tried to look on the positive side, but we actually went, okay, this is bad. Because it's not, so there's two things at play here. There's a lack of quality and there's a lack of commitment, isn't there?
Yeah.
And, if a team has a lack of quality, but it has commitment, it can usually do okay. And if a team has a lack of commitment, but it's high on quality, again, you can scrape through results. If you've got no commitment and no quality, you're in trouble. And whenever we go down the Blues now, we try and get to as many away games as we can. We go to every home game. I can't remember the last time I've seen a Blues with such a lack of quality and a lack of passion. And I was on social media after the game last night because I always like to get a little bit of immediate feedback from the fan base and see what people are thinking. And people were using words like disrespectful. They felt disrespected as a Blues fan, that those fans weren't willing. And we use terms like fight for the badge. That's an overreach. They're not fighting for the badge. They're not even running. They're not putting anything in on the pitch. It's an absolute shambles. And I think, looking at the Middlesbrough game, it was, again, an underwhelming game. No, Middlesbrough had patches where they passed it around, but that was because we allowed them to pass it around.
Yeah.
And me and you were saying, weren't we? We were moving so little. It looked like Middlesbrough, a very average team to me, what I saw last night. It looked like they had a 12th man on the pitch.
It was crazy, wasn't it? It was really weird watching it as well, because we're all there expectant that we're going to actually now start to sort of realise we're in trouble and do something. I think your criticism is warranted, but on the slightly harsh side, in as much as I think that there were players who were trying to run around and zip and get the ball on occasion. So it wasn't that they didn't have any commitment for parts of the game, because they were, I think, chasing the ball. It's just the quality. Something I noticed, and something that really stared me in the face last night for the first time, is the lack of movement in our team. Is that when we've got the ball, a lot of the players are stagnant or just walking or slow. So that means that the player who's got the ball has got no options. And all that means is it's much easier for the opposition just to put two or three players around it and close us down, and we were losing the ball. In fact, that's how they scored. Pritchard was given the ball, which I thought we was going to go on the attack, but he had no one to pass to, dwelled on the ball. 3 or 4 Middlesbrough players closed him down, won the ball, passed it to, it was Riley who scored the goal, wasn't it? Riley McGree, sorry.
Credit where credit's due. I mean, we handed it to them, but it was a good finish.
It was a good finish, but disappointing because it came out of mistakes by our players.
Awful.
And we look at the guys in the warm-up, don't we? And we sit, do you know when they do that grid thing where half have got bibs and half haven't, and watching them, and they're passing and they're moving, and they get on the pitch. And they look really good doing that, don't they? They get on the pitch and there's none of that. So what's the answer? We give half of them bibs in the actual game so they can actually pretend that they're doing a warm-up. Because if they were to kick the ball and do the passing and movement that they do in that small grid, it will give our players much more options, and that means we're much more progressive and likely to get closed down less as well.
What it comes down to is bottle. So a team, I remember Rooney saying this, he would come on and say, oh no, we've looked really good in training this week. Eustace would come on, we've looked really good in training this week. And then they'd be absolutely rubbish in the 90 minutes we go watching.
Yeah.
That to me says a team that has no bottle, no bravery, no courage.
Yep.
So they can do this passing and moving all they like in training. If you're not going to put it into implement in the 90 minutes when you're in a relegation battle, what's the point in even turning up? It's embarrassing. And a few things you learn when you play children's football, when I was 6 and 7 learning through. One of them, because I was a defender, was to play the way you're facing. I remember that being shouted at me all the time. Play the way you're facing. No, pass and move, pass and move. What are the drills you do when you're training on the pitch? Pass and move, pass and move. Games are won by the movement off the ball just as much as it is what you do on it. And when we move forward, we're not just not moving forward in numbers. We're not moving at all.
No.
And we saw it against Hull. Bacuna would try and move forward. He was surrounded by 9 players because none of our players were up with him. Millwall, we couldn't even get a foothold in the game, but we had no presence in the attacking third. And yesterday was a prime example. No bottle, no courage, not going forward in numbers, not moving, no one fighting for the badge again. And to me, that was the first time this season where I came away really disheartened, that hurt. Because all 11 players to me, and fair enough, I take your point that certain players were trying to run and they weren't getting that feedback from everyone else. But for me, as a team, I think we were really poor last night.
We were, and simple stuff, basic stuff. Like, how many times did we kick the ball out? Literally, we're supposed to go to a play. Ruddy again, kicking the ball out when it was unnecessary. Ayew did it a couple of times. Ayew headed the ball and actually faced it. It was like he had a 50p head and it went over there and it went out again. And that's basic, you can't. They're professional footballers. Yeah. They train every day. Mm-hmm. That's their job.
Yeah.
I sound like Roy Keane, don't I? But that is their job. They're there to you think basic things like being able to trap the ball and pass to a player. You think, well, that's your job. That is, and if you can't do that, then what are you doing in training every single day? That is basic stuff. I also think as well, I don't know what you think. I think this partly now because of where we are. I think there's a lack of confidence as well, which is not helping.
Yeah,
I think the players are getting doubts in their mind and they're getting nervous on the ball, which is why I think we're seeing some of these mistakes happen. Because at the end of the day, we can sit here as football fans, we can sit in the terraces watching our team, but they are human beings and they will make mistakes. We make mistakes in life, but the worrying thing is that that can't keep happening.
But Blues fans and me, I think we'll forgive mistakes as long as they're running and gunning and they're after it. And how many times last night did we sing, get into them? Get into them. It was being belted around quite a lot because the Blues fans were getting so frustrated. No one was putting challenges in. No one was fighting for the game. And just to highlight our lack of movement, how many times did our left back or right back have the ball for a throw-in? And there's absolutely no movement. I remember on this left-hand side, Drama had it. JJ was just standing still. Dizal in the middle was standing still. Paik was trying to make a few moves in here and there, but it was just almost embarrassing to watch, to be totally honest. It was like watching a school team trying to kick it about. And when you make Middlesbrough look like a good team in the final third, as much as we did, we gave them space, we gave them time. Really big question marks, isn't there, moving into these final games? And I think again, I'm sure Mark Venus isn't watching this video, but I think we need to go back to basics. I really do. We hit this message home in one of the old videos. It's not about fancy formations now. It's not about what the players can do. It's about fighting. It's about grafting and going back to having 2 blocks of 4 and going back to that 4-4-2.
But we said that in the last game against Millwall, and we're still another game down the road now, and we still got
we're running out of games.
We're running out of games. That's what I'm saying. So something's got to change quickly. But also as well, I'd like to just sort of mention a few players. I thought Bacuna, when he came on, made a difference in terms of he was more progressive. But again, he had no options. 100%. So he went around players pretty well, but there was no options for him as well. So fair play to him when he came on. I thought he improved the situation, but we still didn't get in any goal-threatening positions, and that wasn't his fault. That's just that there was no options. I thought Mark Roberts as well, before he went off injured, he basically passed the ball back and nearly cost us a goal. Ruddy only came out to intercept. That would have been a sloppy goal. Yeah. And again, his distribution before that wasn't great. He did make 1 or 2 defensive tackles, which were good, but I think he'll be out injured. And also as well, I don't know this for sure, and I haven't read anything about this, but Pritchard Lampard looked injured to me where he
his
looked
hamstring.
Yeah, and I haven't read anything today because obviously we've been busy today with other things, and I haven't looked at any of the press today about whether he's injured. But he looked like he was holding his hamstring, and he did eventually come off. So I don't know whether there's an injury there.
Yeah.
Stansfield didn't get a yellow card, so that's good. So now the yellow card amnesty's in place. So therefore, if he gets booked now, he won't miss 2 games.
Yeah. But again, when you look at Stansfield, he's trying to run between the lines. He's trying to create opportunities for himself. He's just not getting the ball through.
He needs somebody up front with him.
He needs a support. He needs
a
a good attacking mid if we're going to play that formation, or he needs a strike partner.
Yeah.
Because it's really painful to watch. He's trying to make. You can't knock Stansfield's work ethic, even in games when he's a bit invisible, because he guns, he runs, he does put the effort in. But when you're seeing him make those clever little runs and our players are just completely oblivious to it, it's really, really frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
And before it gets lost, I just want to make some notes. So I thought Drama did okay, but when does he not do okay? I think he's one of our solid all-round performers.
He did okay, yeah.
And I think the fact that Buchanan was out of position when he went into the centre mid, he put in some big challenges.
Yeah, I think that was a plus point for me. Buchanan,
and he did do okay.
Yeah,
he did do okay.
I agree with that, yeah.
Some massive negatives for me, again, won't dwell on them too long. Ruddy's distribution. How many times on this podcast, Dad, are we going to say, Ruddy, come on, mate, those white lines, let's keep it in?
Yeah.
7, 8 times last night, he just kicked it straight out. Really frustrating. And I take your point, me and you had a bit of not a ding-dong, but a back and forth at the game about Pritchard for that goal. Fair enough, you make the point that he had no one to pass to, but he still has to do better in that position. If you look at the time he had on the ball, he was almost dwelling on it too long, but I get his frustration. No one was making any runs around him.
He should have had runners and options, yeah.
It was a gift.
But
gift.
I agree with you as well. He did lose the ball, so he is guilty of that. But if he had options and was able to release the ball quicker, that would never have happened.
Exactly.
And he had no options.
It was a gift again.
Yeah.
How many times are we going to come on this podcast and go, we gifted them a goal?
Yeah.
I thought the ref and the officials, again, were quite poor. Again, there was no big decisions like there has been recently in terms of penalties and handballs. But I thought overall their consistency was pretty poor. I think Luke Ayling did a fantastic job of running down the clock as much as he could whenever he got a throw in. That was really, I don't know what you think, really, that was really winding me up towards the end of the game. I was screaming, in fact, though, I mean, credit to him or lack of our left-hand side. I think he had a good game, actually, Ayling. I think he caused us a few problems in our left-hand side.
Yeah.
But to me, overall, just conclusively, I was just really upset and with our lack of passion, again, lack of drive and a lack of commitment on and off the ball. It was poor.
Well, just a couple of final points from me, just to pick out a few performances. I don't think, as much as I love him, Ethan Laird had a good game at all. I think his passing was terrible. I think he'd openly admit that. I think his effort is there and he's trying to drive forward. He's a very progressive type of. He's obviously a wing back, but he's distributed. I can't remember or can't count how many times he gave the ball away yesterday. And also as well for the last couple of games, I think Koji Miyoshi as well, he needs to improve as well. Yeah, we know that he's got it in him, but there seems to be a drop in his performances in the last couple of games. That has to change as well.
Just to back Laird up a little bit, I think kind of what you said earlier, I think fair enough. Undeniable, his distribution was diabolical last night. The amount of times he gave it to the opposition, but again, how much of that was people not making runs for him? So he tried a few times. I saw Laird trying to go around the edge and try and feed in Stansfield, but it just didn't quite come off and it didn't work. But for me, I was upset with his literal 4-yard pass that down the wing that went straight to their player. That's what I was upset about with Laird last night. But overall, I think there was a couple of players who tried to push forward, tried to pass. I think Laird was one of them, but they must have been getting so frustrated with that lack of movement. It was infuriating to watch.
And I think as well that the players got panicky as well because how many times do we give the ball back to them? Goal kicks from Ruddy, literally going back to either their last defender who headers back to their goalkeeper, or we have players that are just kicking the ball into nowhere. And we should be sort of trying to play the ball. But again, I think the key thing which we'll get from this match is the movement. The players have to move, just like they do in the warm-up, like I mentioned. They've got to buzz around and give options, and that is where we're lacking. And that's what really... And Middlesbrough just ate it up, They basically... It was easy for them to close us down because the players had to dwell on the ball because they had no options.
We're making it too easy we're too beatable, aren't we?
I doubt if Middlesbrough would have had an easier game this season than that.
It was poor, wasn't it? It was poor. And as I said, no disrespect to Middlesbrough, but when you're making Middlesbrough look like Real Madrid at times with their pass in the final third, it's like, come on, Blues. Show me some passion, show me some... That's a bit of an overstatement, to be fair, but when you make... You know, when they're passing it around, you know, the way they did. You know, because you look at Southampton, you look at Leeds, you know, and those teams have high possession and they pass it well in the final third. There's no denying that their quality is high. You know, they have a very expensive team and an expensive squad. But when teams like when me and you go to the Den and Millwall are playing it around you, you know, these are the teams you have to be competitive with. And that's no disrespect to Millwall. It's no disrespect to Middlesbrough. It's more of a reflection on Birmingham City. If we want to stay up in this division, we have to be more competitive in these games. Case in point, Watford on Saturday. Yeah. That now is a must-win.
Yep. Okay. I mean, so was Middlesbrough. We said that, didn't we, as well?
Yeah.
Again, we're just ticking games off now. Something has to change, and I'm sure, you know, Blues fans, as you've seen in social media today, are very upset still about what happened.
Upset.
But you know, we're running out of time to change things, so things have to happen now.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is correct as well. One final thing I read somewhere, and I don't. This is not a credible source. It's just that I just read it that suggested that Tony Mowbray may be back for the Queen's Park Rangers game.
Oh, okay.
Now, please don't take that as read. I just read it, so I don't know whether that's correct or not, or whether it's just wishful thinking. But I think the sooner we get Tony Mowbray back, and that's no disrespect to Mark Venus, he didn't ask to be made manager.
No, exactly.
And he's doing his best. And okay, we're not getting the results at the moment, but the sooner we get Tony Mowbray back, in my opinion, at the dugout, the better. Clearly, we only want him back when he's completely healthy. We don't want him rushing back. But I think every Blues fan will welcome that day when he does come back.
What a game to have him back for as well, QPR. Huge game.
Yeah.
The longer we go without getting points, the bigger these Cuddersfield, QPR, Rotherham games get.
Yeah.
And as you say, we wish nothing but Tony well. And please come back when he is ready and he's recovered. Yeah. But if that's true, that I'd be very happy.
Yeah, me too.
So you've just heard our opinions on the game from Tuesday night, but we'd love to hear from you. Birmingham City fans, do you agree with our opinions? Were you just as frustrated with that game, with the lack of passion and lack of drive from our players? Are you worried moving forward into these final 9 games, which seem to be getting bigger and bigger? Please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future content.